Ready for the hard questions? Hey everyone, and welcome back to CJRaceCars YouTube channel. Today, Danny wrapped up the firewall. The centerpiece was the last piece left, and we got that finished up today. So the firewall is totally fabricated. The only thing we will have to do when it comes back from powder coat, we drill and tap the chassis for the number 6 32 screws. Other than that, firewall's done. Now that it's done, he's got the pieces in and he's running his brake lines through the firewall, which we couldn't do without the firewall. We'll be doing that, and then we'll be running the fire lines through the firewall. There'll be a fire line on the passenger side that'll aim towards the back of the fuel rail. One on the driver's side that'll come down the strut bar and aim at the oil pump and the fuel cell. We'll show you a little on that. We'll also show you the difference. We kind of explained it last time between our normal firewall on Jamie's car and the firewall on this car because we had to push the tubing out for Cletus's legroom. Also, Troy's got a pretty good start on the wing. He got the top deck plate done. He got the side plate template pretty close to where we like it, and he's working on the wicker bill now. So we'll show you all that stuff today. Hopefully you guys like it.
We got wingage.
Wingage.
Wing Wednesday.
That's today?
It is.
Today's Wednesday, right?
Okay.
It is, right?
I prefer buffalo, but we're gonna do arrow today.
Man.
And
all right, so tell them what you got going on, Troy. We went over the lips that have taken 3 weeks, so we went over that part.
5 weeks.
We went over that part already, so they know that. We put that in 10 or 12 videos. Troy's been on it. We almost had to put him in a mailbox back here, but now that he's done with the lips.
Well, they don't know I only work on it 20 minutes here, 10 minutes there. But
yeah, he has bounced around a lot. But now the lips are done.
We're working on the wing. Right now I'm just finalizing this front edge, trying to get to match what I got going on, getting the proper angle at the dangle, trying to get this to line up. Once I get that finalized, I'll go on to determining my width. I'll probably determine my length first. I had them make me a tool so that I can cut my radius in the back. This is probably going to end somewhere just in front of these chutes. So this wing is actually going to end kind of in the vicinity of where this is now, at which point we'll have a wicker bill going across. And then when I terminate the two sides, I always narrow the back, generally an inch per side. What that does is it forces the air. It acts more like a dart flight and helps stabilize at speed. I call it squish, but it's the same idea like on a catamaran, racing boat, or any kind of, what you're trying to do is rather than have the air go straight, I'm trying to gather the air to help keep the car going straight down the line. At which point we'll determine a shape for our spill plates. I still got to go over with Cameron exactly what he wants to see on the spill plates. We're probably going to end up doing them like we've been doing them because it's a pretty good formula that works out really well. But yeah, basically here we are. Everywhere you see a Cleco is where it's going to get bolted to the car. And then if you look over the top in the corner here, you'll see what I'm talking about. This being the same height. So when the deck lid goes on, it's going to be deck lid up into this corner. So it's going to be all smooth. All you're going to see is the deck lid, the quarter, and the wing. So now you see how this sits down into that pocket. That's why we do it that way, so that everything is nice and smooth. Makes for a real clean install when it's all said and done. Don't have just to get me in the ballpark. So that's my level, or at least my wing, which I already know the wing is high, so that's okay. We can work with that. Be onto something. a preliminary design. I mean, we'll modify it from there. It's something to go by for the moment. Some of these classes have rules for the height of your spill plate above the deck and different things like that. But I think for now, this I'll probably add to it to come down to a point here. But this proves my concept that where I want to end the wing is going to work for my spill plate. So I kind of got a template for a spill plate, and I've confirmed that I can end the wing where I wanted to. So we're going to set up to do that.
Oh, we got a firewall. Gotta drill these holes here after the motor's out. But other than that, it didn't come out too bad, considering it's the first one I did.
You guys look at this firewall here, and we'll go over and look at Jamie's here in a minute. But this firewall here is pushed out about 6 inches really quickly, this hump here. Normally this is totally straight. This gave Cletus about an extra 5 or 6 inches of legroom, which he absolutely needed. We tried to do it without that, and the first time we fit him in the car, realized that was not going to work unless we wanted his legs hanging out in front of the car. So this made it a little more difficult because of the way we do our firewalls. They have a lip stepped on the edge, or this is actually tipped with the bead roller. But being that it has all these lips on the edge that are tipped, it made it hard to roll it and have a tipped edge. So a little more difficult. Danny will probably explain it better than I will because he did it. But it came out awesome. Danny did an awesome job. And moving on to the next thing.
This piece right here and the one on the other side, they were the most difficult of all of them. Being it had to wrap around this corner. You had to drop this down more than here because this tube is lower than this tube. This tube pretty much dictates where this was going to land. You can make you a cardboard pattern or a thick poster board pattern that we have. You can make you a pattern. You can put brakes in it. You can fit it up there. You can hold it where you want it, and you can pretty much think you got it what you want. Lay that on a piece of metal, trace it exactly, make sure everything's nice and straight, and when you put the metal in, you can't put this down where it's supposed to go until you put all of these brakes in it. Then you hope you did right. If it doesn't land exactly in some areas, you can steepen this a little bit, which will drop it slightly if you had a spot here that needed to go down. There's room to work a little bit, but this one went fairly easy. Got lucky, guaranteed. That side is basically a mirror image of it. That one fought me a little bit. Yeah, why, I do not know. But this kind of firewall, where it steps down in the tubes like that, so we have a little lip to put screws in, is harder to do than if you have a tab, which sometimes we've done that. But on this particular firewall, being as curvy as it is, tabs are not an option.
We're back here with Troy on the wing and the deck lid. We've talked a lot about the deck lid, the flush mount deck lid lips that Troy's been working on for the last 6 or 8 weeks, however long it's been.
5 weeks.
5 weeks. And kind of trying to explain what a deck lid to the wing would look like, and probably didn't make a whole lot of sense, honestly, but now that it's on here, maybe it'll make sense. So what we got here is the deck lid is totally flush here. I mean, you can see it's
Well, this joint will get welded.
right, yeah, this will all be welded and buffed down, so that'll be just a rounded edge here. But as you can see, now that he double stepped this so that everything could sit, this could sit in here flush. Double step the trunk lid lip underneath the wing, and then this has a single step, so that all this is now totally flush. Basically, once it's painted, this will just look totally smooth. It's not, doesn't sit over top of it. The wing doesn't sit over top of the deck, but it's just perfectly smooth going back. So
And the hardware is hidden except for the Zeus's that hold the deck lid down. That's another reason we do that. It's a real clean setup.
Yeah, you can see all the mounting hardware for the wing is underneath. So it's all flush mount. Also, a lot of cars, they just mount them to the top of the deck lid, which there's a few things that kind of suck with that. Is if you pull the deck lid off and it's mounted deck lid, you got to pull the wing off, which is kind of a pain. Also, if you do that, you have a hardware, you have a lip. It's just, in my opinion, not quite as clean as this. This really looks
Nowhere near as attractive.
yeah, not as attractive for sure. So he got that done, started on the wing, the deck of the wing. This is the deck of the wing. He's working on a spill plate here. I think we're gonna go a little bit farther, maybe 2 inches longer on the side, and we may bring it down to the center of the bumper. I haven't decided yet. Maybe a little bit longer there.
Yeah.
But other than that, this is kind of the design of the wing-ish. For what he's running, there's no rules for wing. Some classes, there are rules for wings, like No Prep Kings. You can only, I think, have 7-inch tall.
I believe it's you have to start 21 by 8, or they have a specific measurement, and I just blank out a piece that big and we make it out of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a specific size it cannot exceed. But fortunately, being outlaw,
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants.
so we're gonna make the spill plates as big as we can. Well,
Yeah.
not. I mean, it could be too big.
Yeah, you don't want to drag it around. or
There's
anything,
an
but
aesthetic as well as function.
the wing definitely plays a big part in function, along with the wicker. That's another thing. In MPK, the wicker can only be 2 inches long, which for radial stuff, that's way more than we would ever use. In no prep, they obviously have bad track conditions, especially up top, where you could create a lot of downforce with the wicker being tall. With this car, it'll probably be 1/2 inch, 3/4, somewhere around there normally. The less wicker you can run and get away without the car having issues with traction, the faster the car will be. Less downforce, less friction, you'll be faster. But
Yeah.
you do need some normally.
Less drag.
Less drag. So we're getting close. Tomorrow morning he'll do one more template, probably a final rendering of it, and then we'll probably make the aluminum sides. The wing will be close. With our wings, typically there's 4 struts that mount the wing to the bumper or the back balance of the car. What we do is we make a tube that goes across the parachute mount with 2 Zeus's. So the center of the wing will Zeus the parachute mount, which eliminates the 2 inner wing struts. And then we'll basically just do an outer wing strut that also ties into the spill plate to keep this thing from flapping around. The biggest structure of this is Troy, not we, because I won't do it, but Troy will do it. There's a little plate that goes behind this.
That'll get welded right to the quarter panel.
Right.
And then the spill plate will bolt straight to that. So it creates a lot of rigidity. It's going to be like a rock. The only thing, we make some tubular supports to keep this back corner from flapping in the wind at 200 something mile an hour, and away we go.
And then we'll have a wing. It'll be winged up.
It'll be winged up.
All wingy.
Wing Wednesday.
It's Thursday.
Oh,
That's close enough.
I missed it.
We'll say this is.
maybe we'll get it done by next Wednesday.
I doubt it. Not
Or the
if it takes-
Wednesday
not if it
after.
takes as long as it did to do those deck lid lips.
Oh, so in 5 weeks.
5 weeks from now, we'll have a wing done, probably.
Yeah.
Ready? For
guess.
the hard questions?
Ready? Yeah.
All right, so we had one question was, how has Danny's life improved since he found the 1/8" notcher?
I haven't even had to use it yet.
It has.
Like I said in the very beginning, I hardly ever have to use that notcher, and I had a way to make it work. I was not implying tongue-in-cheek that I wanted a notcher. I just made a comment that we didn't have one.
So
And
your life hasn't
everybody
improved.
blew it way out of proportion.
Yeah, I was getting death threats if I didn't buy you a notcher.
But it made it sound, everybody thought you were being cheap. And you weren't being cheap. It's just that if you build junior dragsters or you build dragster chassis in general, you use a lot of 1/8" tubing.
Yeah.
On these cars here, the only ones are the lightweight versions, you might say, of some of the tubes way in the back.
Yeah, we don't
Anyway,
need
it hasn't improved yet
That's
at all.
probably
because I
why you
haven't had
bought
to
the
use it.
eighth and an inch.
for the dragsters.
Yeah.
We used
And
to
you
do
built 4 of them.
dragster chassis. I think we did 5,
5.
and then that was it. Realized that wasn't our.
There's guys that
You
do
gotta
that.
build them too fast, and as picky as we are and as nice as we want our stuff, there was no money in it, so we stopped building dragsters. That was 4 or 5 years, 4 years?
4 years
Yeah, it was a
ago.
long time
'Cause
ago.
it was after
Yeah.
I started.
I can improvise.
Yeah, for sure. All right, my next one. Might have already been said, but how much of the car is titanium, percentage-wise?
Percentage?
wise?
Maybe 10.
10%. So we basically use titanium anywhere that's not an SFI certified
The thing
bar.
with titanium is you can't weld it to chromoly.
Yeah, it's
So
10% minimum.
most of your items that get bolted on are titanium. If it's welded, it's chromoly. It's got to be.
Yeah. We have done a car, the Scion, the 2J car, that had dual frame rails and uprights and everything that were titanium. But with those cars, they don't make as much torque, so it was something we felt like it was okay to try it. With this, not really something I'd want to try with a bolted-in dual frame rail.
Yeah, we
with
want
this
to
kind of power.
stick to what we know, not
Yeah.
experiment,
Yeah.
for sure.
But yeah, I'd say 10% is probably close. 8-10%, because
Yeah,
you
that's
got
all right.
you got pretty much everything that bolts on that's not SFI or can be SFI with titanium.
Yeah, like
titanium.
just this little section in the front is titanium.
Yeah.
Little
Control
guy-
arms,
Yeah.
steering,
Control arms, steering shafts,
window frames, tunnel, firewall.
drive shaft enclosure.
Some cars we do the rear section in titanium, but we
Yeah,
don't do a
those-
lot of the steel roof and quarters cars in titanium because it's a lot of weight hanging back there, so it doesn't really, it's not beneficial. The Scion also has the rear section from the shocks back is all titanium. Body mounts out to the body are titanium. So you could get a little more maybe than 10%, but
Yeah, you got, yeah,
Yeah.
I would say 10 is
right.
probably a good number.
Yeah, I think so too. How much wasted material goes into a build, a whole chassis? As far as cutting a pipe too short, wrong, too short / wrong, wrong bend or miter.
I'm not a plumber, I don't work with pipe.
Pipe tubing.
Oh, tubing? Yeah, we build these out of tubing. And mistakes are made on occasion, we're not perfect. But we try to keep the waste to a minimum, but it does happen. And in a lot of cases, you might mess up on a tube, but there's still enough of the tube left to be used elsewhere in the car. So all's not lost when we mess up a tube. On occasion it is, but
You always cut one longer.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna notch one that's a little complicated on the notch, I'll cut it 2 inches longer, and I'll make the easy notch first. Well, no, I take that back. I'll make a hard notch first to get it so it fits, and then let's say the other side is just a simple notch. Then you take that one and you cut it when you see that fits. You cut that back some, so you don't notch a whole hell of a lot. Then you just take it, run your notcher in, check it. Run a little more, check it until it lays in where you want to go. But yeah, there's times we have complicated bends, like an 8-pillar, for example. Sometimes they can be a little tricky. But I use slip joints on those, which makes it a lot better. I'll take a piece of tubing about so long, 1.5 inches, turn it down a little bit so it goes inside the 1 5/8 or 83. And then I can make a bend back there, and then this bend here, I know about what angle that's going to be, but I don't know what the offset's going to be when I bend it. So I put that sleeve in there, put it up in the car, twist it, get it right where I want it, and then mark it and tack weld. Now I have a copy of what I'm going to do.
I also think if you were okay with, if we weren't as particular, you'd waste a lot less material. I think we redid an 8-pillar one time, 3 times, I can't remember what car it was on, for like 1/4 of an inch, or an 1/8 of an inch, or 3/16.
You're talking about Clay's car.
Might have been Clay's car.
I bent that bar and it came out okay, but we have such a real slight bend right here. What I did was I made that bar, and I don't know if I made it once or I made it twice, but I put it in the car and I liked it. I come over here and did the same thing and reversed it like I had to because it's a kind of a mirror image, and it came out looking better. What was cut, I wanted the tube to be like on the same plane, flat all the way up with the bend like this. Well, on that one over there, it came down, but then when it bent, it kind of went down a little. Well, I did this one the way I wanted it, so I left it alone. I went back over to that one, remade it again, did the same thing I did the first time by mistake. So the next day I came in and I didn't punch in. I made the 8-pillar on my own time, like this one was, because I was not going to charge you for that. It's my freaking mistake. But the difference was when you put it in the bender, you had to roll a little bit one way or the other, ever so slightly. And I was going the wrong direction on the roll. But yeah, lesson learned on that one.
Yeah.
But I'm picky about that. I mean, most people would never, ever see that. But I knew it was there. And it just didn't look right. And those bends, by the way, they don't get thrown away. You'll cut it apart, put more bend in it, make funny car cage bars with it, whatever.
Yeah, and that's what we'll do is we'll, at the worst case scenario, we'll save the bends. And like Danny was saying earlier, he'll use them to mock up a hard tube to make and create his template so that he can copy it with a fresh piece of tubing and get it on the first shot.
Very little gets wasted on the car. I mean, it might get wasted for the car, but it doesn't get wasted for whatever we do on somebody else's car or this car later on or whatever. But oh yeah, I'm the one that hoards everything.
Yeah, we definitely try to reuse everything we can. Even if it's a bend we cut out and he uses it for one of his templates again on something else, that degree bend, we try not to waste much. So.
I used to buy my tubing when I was doing my work. And so I learned not to throw anything away that I thought I could use later.
Someone asked, can you braze the firewall in instead of screwing it on?
Well, if the firewall is made of steel, you can weld the steel to the chromoly. Titanium, on the other hand, only welds to titanium. Same with aluminum to aluminum. So I haven't come up with a way to weld titanium to chromoly. If somebody has a way.
Now you got to use that new rod, that
Amazing.
unobtainium rod.
Unobtainium.
Yeah, the unobtainium rod.
Yeah.
That works.
That will weld anything in.
We'll have to try that. But
Yeah.
no, it's the one thing with these cars, anything titanium is going to bolt on. A lot of times it'll slide in and have a bolt through it. But yeah, we nut and bolt or just drill and tap the frame and bolt anything titanium as far as the firewall for sure.
Yeah. Whereas if we do a steel firewall, we would not screw it in, we would weld it in. Because that would be the way to do it with steel. So
Yeah.
with titanium, that's really the only way. The big thing with the titanium is making sure that it fits well, because since you're not welding it, it needs to seal all the way around. So that's why we step it and stick it in, so it's not doesn't have like a sharp edge and have a bunch of humps in between the screws. So they seal up pretty good. The only thing, if you have issues and you dent them or blow something up and it bends them and creates like a void or something in between the screws, you need to fix it so that you don't have an issue with the car catching on fire. We have seen that with cars where it gets damaged and it doesn't get replaced, and if there's a fire, then it can definitely get in the cockpit. So
Fire will find a hole.
you definitely want to, and a lot of people don't want to, I don't know, we've honestly probably never weighed like an exact firewall to firewall, but I bet it's probably an 8-pound difference.
From the steel to the titanium.
Probably, but maybe 10 with the floor. The driver's floor and the firewall's 10 pounds, which doesn't seem like a lot, but
Didn't you say it's about a half the weight of steel?
yeah.
So that doesn't matter if it's tube, sheet,
Yeah,
plate,
pretty much,
whatever.
yeah, it's pretty much
about half the weight.
Yep. So it's worth it. It's definitely worth the weight savings. Just a little more maintenance if you damage something, it needs to be fixed. Whereas if it was steel, it was welded all the way around and it got dinged or dented, it still would seal fine.
Plus, it's a lot tougher than the steel.
It is very
A lot
tough.
of people don't realize just how tough that material is.
I think you said one time it's about aluminum and titanium is real close to the same weight. And
Yeah.
aluminum might be just a tiny bit lighter,
It is.
but it's nowhere near as tough as
Yeah.
titanium's a weird metal.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely funky, but way stronger than aluminum for sure.
That's one of the reasons you see it in aerospace and such, because of its lightweight, rigidity, and strength.
All right, the next question is, why haven't you finished welding the cage / frame yet?
We usually do that before it goes to coating. It enables us to flip it over and really get in there and look at it good and make sure we don't miss any spots.
Yeah, you can't weld it. Sometimes you can't weld the entire tube in. Let's say you put a tube in and you're really not sure exactly what you want to do with it necessarily, and you want to see if it's going to fit something else later. You tack it in place. And let's say you find out, something is interfering with that. We're going to have to modify that too to clear something else. If it's all fully welded in, you just added a lot of time to cut it out, sand everything down. If it's just tacked in, you just cut little tacks, knock it out, redo it. Plus, if it's on the jig, you can't weld down there. So you just weld what you can in here, here and there, spot around everywhere, get it welded as best you can, and then when it's all done, you flip it upside down, sideways, stand it up, whatever you gotta do to make all the welds you couldn't get to.
Yeah.
Well, plus that covers one of the things that we do. You'll notice very little heat in all of our joints. One of the reasons is because we don't sit there and weld the whole thing. We'll weld a little bit, go to another spot, weld a little bit, go to another spot, and move the heat around the car. And it helps with less distortion and so forth. But mostly you're not heat soaking the material and damaging it. And that's best done with the car off the jig, on its side, or what have you. It's just something that we've always done before the car goes to coating. It gives us the opportunity to inspect it and make sure we're not missing any spots. There's a number of reasons why we don't. And like Danny said, if something's in the way and we got to move something, it's a lot easier to do if the tube's only tacked in than it is fully welded. So for sure.
One question I know we're going to get, and that is, does that welding off the jig distort the chassis? There's enough weld on that car when it comes off the jig that if you spot, like Troy said, here and there, that chassis is not moving.
No, we do quite a bit of welding on the jig.
Oh yeah.
It's probably 75% of the way welded before it comes off the
least.
jig. So we do as much as we can. Also, we're putting components in the whole time of the build, so you're still fabricating. And then as you add those components, there's more stuff in the way to get to other welds. So really the only way to weld it right is to completely disassemble it, flip it around, and weld it. And I did see another question that someone said, how do you know that you got all the spots? So there's no like real exact way we do it. Basically Taylor or Andrew will just start welding the whole thing. Whoever starts, if it's Taylor welds it, Andrew will come back and look for everything. Me and Daniel will probably look at it. We'll all take a look at it. We'll put tape if we see somewhere needs to be welded.
Yep.
We'll go over it multiple times to make sure, because there are a lot of weld joints. I don't know exactly how long it takes to weld because we don't start the welding at the end and then finish it all in one stroke, but I bet it's a 40 hours worth of welding to weld one of these cars. So a lot of welding. You could definitely miss something. So we always make sure there's 3, 4, 5 people that check it before it goes to powder coat. Because once it goes to powder coat, you do not want to have to repair or add a weld. So
we haven't had to do that yet.
No, we never had to do that. But we take the time to make sure we look it over a bunch of times before it goes to powder coating, which it should be going to powder coat probably in the next few weeks-ish. Other than the front end and doors, most of the big stuff now, which you guys seen in this video, Danny got the firewall done, the wings coming out good. So a lot of the big stuff is out of the way. We're starting to get to some of the small stuff to make sure we have everything. We're fitting some electronics up here, fitting the canisters on the lower control arms, primer pump, fuel pump. So
yeah,
all the little detailed stuff, we're really getting down to that and making sure everything's good to go. And this thing will be heading to powder coat and get some color on the chassis soon. So when we do that, we'll also go over how we make sure we weld everything. I also want to weigh the chassis. Some really cool stuff coming up, so that'll be good. All right, so I think that's all the questions we got for this week. Remember, if you guys want your questions answered, make sure you comment. And if we see a question pop up a few times or we think it's a good question to touch on, every Friday, about halfway through the video, we'll get to some questions and answers, and we'll do our best to answer them. Hopefully we know the answers. All right, I think that'll do it for this video. Make sure if you're watching, you subscribe. Thanks for everyone that's been following, and we'll see you on the next one.